Scoping parry tendencies is one of the main skill sets you develop from this game, which translates to exactly 0 other fighting games. The big thing about parry tendencies that makes them so easy to scope is that, like, when you look at when your opponent reversals, you're scoping out, like, something that's basically very random for them. But when you're scoping out when your opponent parries, you're also scoping out their capacity to parry. Like, people are limited. Different players will have different skill, like, levels of parrying, and they'll make decisions based on that skill level. Like, if something's a hard parry, no one will go for the parry there if they're, like, below the skill level, the skill threshold to parry it. I guess it does translate to Yatagaras. I'm of a very small group of people who actually genuinely like Street Fighter V a lot. I have a very positive opinion on the game. I think it's fun to play. Math guy fucking bounced, dude. He like said he was bouncing when he bounced. Good luck on the overhead. Not that Alex's lows are that scary. That was a good red. And a good punish. That could have been empty cancelled. Like, let's say I'm a Dudley, and my opponent goes for jump in parry occasionally. If I do something like jump in, if I do something like anti-air like strong, and then do ducking, I cancel the ducking, or anti-air forward, and then I cancel the ducking and do a super coming from the other direction. Like, rather the way I see how they parry and what they do after they parry, I can get an idea whether they're even capable of a parry like that, or whether they're looking for it. And if they're not capable of a parry like that, then that means it's going to be a good anti-air like pretty much all the time. That's a huge component of skill in this game that most people do not think about. I mean, every like good third strike player thinks about it a lot. What is my opponent capable of parrying? But beginners tend to not have a concept of what is feasibly parryable at various skill levels, because to them, like, everything is hard to parry. People tend to think about it very much, like, a lot of people tend to form a very negative opinion based on, like, straight up fallacy. This is one I see all the fucking time. As people complain about, like, opponents being able to parry their anti-airs. Okay, that's a very common complaint of third strike. So I hate it when opponents can parry my anti-airs. But they never think about it in terms of, I can parry their jump-ins, and they never think about it in terms of, I can parry their anti-airs. They only think about it in the way that it hurts them, when in fact it's like a two-way road. The only possible way that it's bad, that jump-ins are parryable, is if only, like, I shouldn't say the only possible way it's bad, because that's deceptive as fuck. People always treat it like an imbalance, but it's only an imbalance because they're bad. It's only an imbalance if you don't sufficiently have the skill level to get jump-in parry. Gaijin desu. Thanks, commentators. Parries change footsies a lot. I don't think they ruin it. The biggest way that I think parries could be argued to ruin footsies is an argument I've never seen anyone make, which is that a lot of scenarios... Well, I've seen Viscant make it, and this is one of the ways that he was right. You only generally need one parry for most setups in order to escape a scenario. So while there can be complex scenarios, I mean, I don't know how often they're actually more complex than blocking, but while there can be complex scenarios, a single low parry can, like, break them, or like a single high parry can break them for almost all scenarios like that. And of course, the timing will be radically different. But like the fact that it's a single parry upsets a lot of people. People think there's just like one hard counter that beats everything. But what they're not thinking about, which is where I think Viscant's argument falls flat, is that looking at it like one single parry, and thus like one option that can just get out of everything, is really deceptive, because you can have one parry here, one parry there, one parry slightly later. Like, when the parry happens is like 5 different scenarios. Even if it is just one parry, it's just one parry in several different places, and if you predict wrong in which place it is. So it's not really, it just dumbs it down to one scenario. You can have like an immediate low and a delayed low that both, that low parry beats one and not the other, but like high block will both, like any sort of high block will lose to both, and like any sort of like throw tech will lose to both, and stuff like that. In reality, it can be the same exact scenario, but like further magnified just because there's different parry timings. And of course, there are scenarios that require multiple parries to actually get a punish. Or levels where you can get one parry into a minor punish, or multiple parries into huge punishes. That was really cool. I have some regrets about talking about Viscant. I see a lot of people kind of blindly sucking my dick about it, and I see a lot of people disagreeing with me about it. And I think both categories are dumb. I should have made a more profound effort to really disagree with him, like to really show what I meant. My main complaint with Viscant is that he treats a lot of differences like negatives. So like when I was reading it, I was like, yeah, that's true, and what? What I was trying to say is, that's different, but is it a complaint? Some complex scenarios get simplified, and some scenarios that weren't complex at all get complexified, which is something that Viscant didn't talk about at all. And in that way, I think that that's just outright wrong. He like always talks about parry simplifying footsies, but there are a lot of things that were very simple that are now very complex, such as most anti-airs. That's a really obvious example. But my main point is Viscant lists all these different things, all these differences between Street Fighter 3 and 2, and the way that parries function. And they are different, but that's all. They're just different. Are they worse? Are they better? That depends on you. But he would say that they were different, and that would be his whole argument. Parries ruin footsies because you can parry out here. You couldn't parry out in Street Fighter 2. He like cherry picked his favorite scenarios from Street Fighter 2 and like random scenarios from Street Fighter 3. I will reiterate now that Viscant is a guy who knows a lot about Street Fighter 2 and not a lot about Street Fighter 3, and I am the inverse. But I wouldn't criticize Street Fighter 2 that much, and he criticized Street Fighter 3 a lot. And in fact, like, a lot of people seem to think of him as some kind of authority about it. A lot of people treat him breaking apart Street Fighter 3 as like the game being fully like exposed for what it is, when in fact he's just a guy who doesn't know that much about it. I know more about philosophy than Viscant. I have no idea how much Viscant knows about philosophy. I think from the examples that he chose when talking about the game, that he could have chosen much better examples, and if he had chosen much better examples, he would have realized that it's not as bad as he said. Those are my brief thoughts. It's just awkward whenever I see like someone like, oh, like Befailed destroyed Viscant's arguments. It's like I didn't actually like. I don't know. If I had more time, I think I probably could break down those arguments. Just because I like, you know, I think there's more to this game than he gave it credit for, and thus I think there are, you know, arguments to be made in favor of it. Dead Strike is far from a perfect game, but it has a lot of individuality compared to other Street Fighters that makes it kind of, in some ways, better than them. I don't think it's... I mean, obviously it's got a lot of flaws. I wouldn't say it's net better than any Street Fighter. I would say that 4 improves on it in a lot of ways. 2 has things that it's missing, and 5 has things that it's missing. 5 also improves on it in a lot of ways. But it's got, like, things that none of those games have. That was a good cross-up. And thus, like, it has, you know, I could understand immediately how it would be someone's favorite. Speaking because it's my favorite. It's definitely not just overwritten by newer games. In the same way that Street Fighter 2 isn't.